Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. So we're just waiting for a couple more people to join the webinar. We're going to be starting by 5:10 p.m. So thank you very much. Please just hold exercise patience while others join in. To achieve here in today's webinar. Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, quick one, please. Can you just take a start again? The meeting is not recording. I'm sure those that were not able to make it into the meeting would want to hear everything. So please just start again. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. No problem. All right. So, sorry everyone for the interruption, but let's start off from the beginning. So, hello everyone, and welcome once again to today's webinar titled GRC, the non-technical pathway into cybersecurity. I'm Abdusalam, your host for today, and I'm thrilled to have all of you here. So, whether you're completely new to cybersecurity or you're looking for a way to transition into the field, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, okay, so we've done this before. So each and every one of you have told us where you're joining us from. We've seen how each and every one of joined us from various parts of the country. We're very much thrilled and happy to have each and every one of you here. So let me just quickly brush through, tell you a little bit about the speakers, the esteemed speakers that we have on the podium today. Now we have the first speaker that we have is our very own esteemed CEO here at Forward Edge Consulting, Mr. Moyosore Kokoyi. Mr. Moyosore is a renowned information security consultant and educator with vast experience in digital security, cyber awareness, and workforce development. He has trained hundreds of cybersecurity professionals and continues to promote security best practices globally. This is a testament to the amount of good work that Mr. Moyosoro does and also continues to do in the field of cybersecurity. We also have on the podium for today Mr. Abdulbasis Olarinwaju Mohammed. He is a result-driven governance, risk, and compliance analyst with a strong focus on risk analysis, cybersecurity frameworks, and also regulatory compliance. He has actively contributed to numerous cybersecurity research initiatives, strategic projects, and also industry programs. He leverages his analytical expertise to assess risks, strengthen security postures, and also ensure regulatory adherence. Both speakers that we have on the agenda, they're some of the best out there. So be rest assured they are going to be learning today from some of the best in the field. So let me quickly walk you through what we have, the aims, the objectives of today's webinar, what we're going to be discussing in today's webinar. We're going to be looking at, first of all, what exactly is GRC. Both of our speakers are going to be doing their best to break the concept, to demystify the concept of GRC. They're going to be telling you all about what GRC is, why GRC is so relevant in the field of cybersecurity. We'll also be discussing some career pathways, as well as how the part, of course, I'm sure most of you are interested in how you can get started in the field of GRC. Lastly, we're going to be ending the session with some quick Q&A, just questions, quick fire questions from the audience. And I guess we're going to be doing their best to answer whatever questions that you may have. Now, before we jump into it, I just want to set the stage real quick, just to clarify a little bit of misconceptions that some people have in regards to cybersecurity. So now, when people hear the word cybersecurity, what comes to mind? Let's just play a quick word association game, right? So just drop one word in the chat box of what you think describes cybersecurity. Just one word, right? So whenever you hear the term cybersecurity, what comes to your mind? So let's talk about before we jump into it from the speakers. Let's just quickly talk about some of the most common assumptions that people have in regards to cybersecurity. Number one, most people think you need to know how to code. They think it's all about hacking, it's all about stopping cyber attack, or that of course in some places, some people believe that you might need a technical degree to break in. Now, all of this, of course, I'm sure this sounds familiar. If you've ever thought of this, trust me, you are not alone. But that's not the case. So here's the reality. First of all, cybersecurity is more than just coding and hacking. Some roles are technical, but many others focus on strategy, policy, and risk management, which you're going to be learning about today. GRC, which stands for, is an essential part of cybersecurity, and without it, businesses won't know what security measures to put in place. So that's that for this particular slide. Now let's just a quick interactive engagement and also some housekeeping rules. So before we get started, let's just do a quick housekeeping just to make sure that you have the best experience from today. So first of all, feel free to use the chat box for general discussions and also engagement. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat box, and we'll get to them during the live Q&A at the end. Now as well, if you run into any technical issues with the webinar, our support team is available in the chat to assist you. So this session is being recorded and will be shared later on our platforms. And of course, yes, the question that also some people may have here, yes, you will receive a certificate of participation if you do indeed stay for the full session. So please, everyone, ensure that you stay to the end of this webinar to receive the certificates. All right, now let's get into it. So now we're going to be hearing from the first speaker that we have today, Mr. Moyosore Kukoyi. So Mr. Moyosore, the floor is all yours, sir.
Let me start by showing myself for a bit so you can be sure you're talking to a human and not a robot. So great. So welcome to today's webinar. And to start, let me first pull up my slide. Okay. Okay, if you can see what's on my screen, please confirm to me. I believe
Yes, sir, we can.
GRC, the non-technical pathway into cybersecurity, right? That's what you can see.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
fine.
sir.
So great, thank you. So let's proceed. And the first topic I'm going to be treating in this webinar is what is GRC and why it matters in cybersecurity. That's what I'm going to be treating. So, so one day, right, I got a question from one of the ex-participants in one of our cybersecurity training program, and whom I frequently communicate with. And he asked me this question, which is better in security engineering and GRC in the long run? That was the question he asked. I had an issue with the question, though I understood what he was trying to ask, more like not just security engineering, the technical side of cybersecurity and the as against the GRC, which is the non-technical side of cybersecurity. But of course, he's been talking to someone who has more interest in security engineering. I had an issue with that question because, you know, I deduce that most people who get into the field of cybersecurity are actually in it for the money. I knew that question was more tied to who is going to make more money in the long run, you know? And that's why we find that most people want to be hackers. Yeah, because in fact, even on social media, there's a way hackers are glorified. I saw one video one time where somebody was saying something. I mean, where there was this video where one guy was carrying bags of money, he was running. Some of you are in cybersecurity and have that presence online, and your algorithm is tilting you towards seeing content. Cybersecurity content might have come across it. So the guy was running, he's carrying a bag of money, small bag of money, or maybe in his hands. Now that is interpreted to be maybe a particular role, I can't remember. As he proceeds, as he keeps proceeding in that video, as he keeps running harder, he keeps carrying more bags of money, it's interpreted to be a certain role. I think the second on the list, if I can remember, was the chief information security officer of an organization. And then the first on the list, the guy with the biggest money bag. And in fact, he was choked with so much money, is the ethical hacker. Now, that is just a perception that is being sold on social media and everywhere. And that's why we see people who come into cybersecurity and they feel like, oh, they just have to do cybersecurity in a certain way. Everybody has to be on the offensive side, which is the pen testing, the ethical hacking side. But the truth is this, you it's not that simple. I mean, that is not the reality. There are people who are actually ethical hackers, who are, can I use the word broke? Yeah, let me say. And there are those who have the money. You get. So likewise, in other fields, in technology as a whole, there is money in technology and there is no money in technology. What I'm trying to say is it just depends on your individual life. And likewise, cybersecurity too. It just depends on each individual. Some people have that money, even if they're in the offensive side, and that success, that impact. And there are some who are just in the GRC side or the defensive side who have that impact. It's individual. But I will, of course, explain this to you very well as we proceed. So, you see, one thing you need to understand is this: people get into this field with the mindset that, oh, tech, which cybersecurity is one in tech, right, is a very, very rewarding field financially. But let's be honest, it probably was easier then for you to, make a statement in the world of technology. In the days of COVID, for example, there were so many remote jobs, so many opportunities, and just it was abundant. And prior to then, too, things were more difficult. But look at the times we are living in right now. Artificial intelligence is solving a lot of problems, and which automatically means that every organization needs a smaller team when it comes to cybersecurity or any other process. So there is higher competitions for the roles that exist. So if you are a food seller and you want to go into cybersecurity, what I would just say is go back if it is money that is bringing you into cybersecurity. That is my honest review. You understand? I'm not saying a food seller wouldn't have interest in cybersecurity. I'm just saying let the interest not be about money. That's not why you're going into technology. I needed to establish that. But if you are still excited about getting into cybersecurity, then if that's the case, you can either be on the offensive side, right? The defensive side or the GRC side of cybersecurity. And I'm coming, sorry. Now, for the offensive side and the GRC and the defensive side, those are the technical sides of cybersecurity. I'm going to explain that a little bit further as we proceed. While GRC is the non-technical side, as I said, some of you might be confused on where to go, and that's probably why you are here in this meeting today. Basically, you have been told the technical sides are better off in the long run, just like the guy who spoke to me. I'll explain and break this down to you in the last presentation. I do not want to give an affirmative response right now. Let's reason it together. But even if it were true, the truth is established. It's going to be success for someone. It's definitely not going to be. Because you're up against the same set of people for opportunities, a huge number of people who have, for example, there are people who started programming or coding since they were maybe like teenagers or even 10 years, 8 years, 9 years old. And just young people who are very passionate about doing all these things technology. It's not money, finances, or a life that doesn't feel fulfilled that drove them into the field eventually. There are some who are very, very passionate about this. Now, you who is getting into cybersecurity and wants to become, this guy with all the technical skills, you are going to be up against these people in the labor market. Are you sure you can beat them to it? You need to ask yourself that question. Don't just answer that question. Start analyzing yourself. Who are you? Why there are people who have a perfect blend of technical skills and non-technical skills required in cybersecurity? We find that many people are stronger in one aspect than the other. For the technical side, you need deep knowledge and technical skills in areas like cloud security, AI security, IoT security, and so on. You also need to constantly evolve in all these skills, because the landscape keeps evolving, everything keeps getting more sophisticated by the day. Now, in security and in most fields, you need to also know how to incorporate and make use of AI, even maybe build AI models and things like that. So you just have to keep growing. For those who are in GRC, right, who want to get into the field of GRC, there are certain skills you need. Yes, there are certain skills you need. You need to have strong business acumen. You need to have deep knowledge of regulations and standards. You also need to have excellent communication skills, analytical and problem-solving skills. So you need to ask yourself which one resonates with your personality. You don't need to force yourself to become who you are not. You don't need to start learning how to code, all those technical things. You don't need to do them if you don't enjoy being on your computer. Just sit back. The people that love doing it really enjoy doing it, not just because of the money. The passion is here. But if you love both, that's very beautiful. So, but now let's ask ourselves, what really is GRC? Let me give a clear definition of what GRC represents, right? But before I do that, I want to explain something to you. Before I explain GRC, cybersecurity can be grouped into three categories, anything in cybersecurity, and which I would personally call the three pillars of cybersecurity, right? The three pillars of cybersecurity. And what are they? The offensive side of cybersecurity, now, and the defensive and GRC. So, but let's start with the offensive. When it comes to the offensive side of cybersecurity, it's like a proactive approach where ethical hackers simulate cyber attacks to identify vulnerabilities before malicious actors can exploit them. This is called red teaming, and it helps organizations pinpoint weaknesses and strengthen their systems. What I'm trying to say in essence is, these are the guys that, of course, they are also defenders in the long run, but what are they doing? They're actually thinking like the attackers themselves. So their goal is to attack an organization's systems and its network, to search and see if there are vulnerabilities that they can exploit. And if they're able to exploit or see any vulnerabilities, of course, they recommend to the organizations to remediate this and solve these problems. That's the goal of the guys in the offensive side of cybersecurity. It's just like even in general security on its own security. The guys who are the offensive guys who go to the battle to fight, what's their end goal? Is also to still protect maybe a nation, for example, but they are doing it from where? From the aggressive standpoint, from the fighting standpoint. That's what offensive security is. That's how I can, simplify it. And these are the guys that you call the ethical hackers, the pen testers, and so on, the bug bounty hunters. Now, the other side to cybersecurity is the defensive security side. These ones are focused on protecting systems and networks through implementing measures like firewalls, intrusion detection, continuous monitoring. This approach aims to prevent cyber attacks, to detect them if they happen, and respond to cyber threats, ensuring robust protection against attacks. So these guys are the ones that are consistently defending. They are the ones that work in the SOC, and they do just so many things just to make sure that there are no vulnerabilities that can be exploited. So this is the defensive side, hoping that you understand that. Now let's go into the main thing, which is what concerns us. And there are the people who are the GRC guys. These guys are the governance, risk management, and compliance team within an organization. So let me tell you what these guys do, right? And I'll give you an analogy of how it works. I'll give you a contextual example, so to say. You see, these guys, when it comes to the governance side, it involves setting policies, assigning roles, establishing the overall framework that guides cybersecurity efforts across an organization. So let's say a bank has a primary goal to safeguard its customers' financial data, which is generally what it is with banks, right? And to ensure the integrity of transactions, to maintain trust and strong reputation. What they will do is the bank's board and executive management, they set a clear cybersecurity strategy that aligns with their business goal. And in this case, what's the business goal? Is to safeguard its customers' financial data and to ensure the integrity of transactions, to maintain trust and a strong reputation. So the board and the executive management sets a cybersecurity strategy that aligns with the business goals. And who is appointed to lead this initiative? That is the Chief Information Security Officer that is appointed to lead this particular program, because of course he's the one that has the experience when it comes to anything cybersecurity. You can't expect anyone, maybe the chief financial officer or the CEO who is not a cybersecurity expert, to know exactly how to do these things. Now, in their discussion, in their plans and everything, the bank establishes policies such as incident response plan, data protection guidelines that outlines the responsibilities and procedures across all the departments within the organization. So the organization implements a policy, for example, that requires quarterly cybersecurity reviews, and it appoints a dedicated cybersecurity committee to ensure that security initiatives are integrated within business processes. That is the governance side of GRC, right? That is what those guys, that's the governance side of this GRC thing we are talking about. Now, when it comes to risk management, which is the R in the GRC. Risk management is about identifying, assessing, and mitigating risks that could compromise in this case, a bank's assets and its operations. So let's say, for example, let me use this analogy. You have a house that is existing in the jungle, right, in the bush. Now, this house has a door. This house has a door, and of course, the door is not properly locked, it's opened, or is almost falling down. What happens is that your house is vulnerable. And there are attackers out there. There will be snakes, there will be, wild animals that could actually get their way into that house. And they will definitely, you are definitely at risk of getting attacked by a wild animal. Why? Because your house is at risk, because you are vulnerable. Your doors are opened, your doors are not strong. You understand? So risk is a very serious thing when it comes to risk management, rather, is a very serious thing when it comes to cybersecurity. The ability to identify risks, what an organization is at risk of, the ability to assess them and to mitigate this risk. That is also those things are very, very key in every organization. So identifying the potential risks, including the threats. I already explained what threats are, maybe like a wild animal, the vulnerabilities and open door, and the impact, what happens eventually when your vulnerability is exploited. That is the concept of risk management. So now, apart from identifying your risk, you need to also be able to assess the risk, evaluating the likelihood and the potential impact of each identified risk. Every organization, just like the bank I was trying to explain or talk about here, is at the risk of I mean, has different risks, they will definitely have different vulnerabilities, different threats, a big threat landscape that, of course, they will discover when they do their analysis. And they are, if through the risk management process, they are able to understand and know what their risk profile is like, and what impacts a particular risk they have the chance of facing can have on their organization or their as a whole. So there are going to be different risks. There are some that are going to have major impact. There are some that are going to have lesser impact. That is part of the responsibilities of the risk management team to understand. Now, risk prioritization, just like I already explained a little bit earlier, is like prioritizing risk based on their likelihood and the potential impact. Knowing, okay, this one, if it happens, if this vulnerability is exploited, what is going to happen eventually? Is it going to be very devastating for the organization? This is part of it. Risk mitigation, implementing controls. Now that you know the risk that your organization faces and the ones that are priority to you, it's now time to implement controls and measures to reduce or eliminate the identified risks that you prioritize. That is also part of risk management. And then risk monitoring. You need to continuously monitor and review the risk landscape to ensure that risks are properly managed. This is the second part in GRC, risk management. We already talked about governance. We already talked about risk management. So now, for example, in the case of the bank, let's bring it back to context. Regular evaluations are conducted to identify vulnerabilities such as weaknesses in the core banking system that could allow unauthorized access or data breaches. Now, once a risk is identified, measures such as maybe a pen test could be carried out by the offensive security team, and a system upgrade are prioritized to reduce the risk. Risks are ranked by their potential impact. Vulnerabilities that could expose customer funds or sensitive data are addressed immediately. These are all part of, the risk management aspect of GRC. After identifying a potential flaw in the authentication process of its online banking platform, for example, this bank we're using as an analogy, the bank conducts a risk assessment and implements stronger multi-factor authentication protocols, reducing the chance of unauthorized access. So now I believe you have some sort of clear understanding of what the risk management aspect of cybersecurity is. Let's proceed to the compliance aspect. Okay, yeah, let's proceed to the compliance aspect. Compliance, what this one does is that it ensures that all cybersecurity practices meet relevant legal, regulatory, and industry standards. So, for example, in Nigeria, we already have the Nigerian Data Protection Act. Outside of Nigeria, we have the GDPR and that of America. I've forgotten what's called. There are these regulations that bind how people make use of their customer data, making sure that they are protected, used responsibly, and all of that. And all organizations are bound by this data protection regulation. For example, too, if you are also in the banking sector and you want to be a payment processor and things like that, you need to be PCI DSS compliant. That is also a regulation that organizations who are in the financial sector need to be bound by. Like our banks in Nigeria have to be PCI DSS compliant. Okay, and then compliance involves routine audits to verify the security measures that meet both internal policies and external. So these are all components of compliance. The goal of those who are in charge of compliance within the organization is to make sure that organizations meet up with all these policies. If your organization needs to be PCI DSS compliant, they have to be PCI DSS compliant. If your organization, which I believe all organizations in Nigeria, for example, need to know how to handle data, Nigerian users, their data responsibly, you need to be compliant with that. You also need to, also another aspect in compliance is also making sure that audits are carried out to verify that whatever security measures that exist within your organization, whether the internal policies and they all need to match up, your internal policies need to match up with the regulatory requirements out there. So That is what GRC is all about. Now, if you can see, there's a difference between these roles in cybersecurity. These three pillars of cybersecurity, the GRC, the offensive, the defensive side of cybersecurity. And as you can see, the GRC side of cybersecurity is also very broad. You just don't need to touch a code. You don't need to do anything super technical or hands-on, so to say. But it's a very, very broad aspect in cybersecurity. Now, that is that for my first lecture. Before we proceed to my second lecture, I would like to introduce the next speaker, who is Abdul Basit, briefly, although the host is going to introduce him, but what he's going to be taking you on is career pathways in GRC, skills, roles, and opportunities. That's what he's going to be taking you on before I come back to discuss how to forge your cybersecurity future, crafting your unique journey. That is Abdul Basit for you. If you have any questions for me, you can drop it in the chat box. Anyone I could answer, I would answer it. Otherwise, we'll answer it during the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moyo, sir. That was a very wonderful and engaging lecture. But now we'll be hearing from our second speaker of the day, Mr. Abdul Basit Olari Mohammed. The floor is all yours, Mr. Abdul Basit. The floor is yours.
Hi, good day, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. Hi, good day, everyone. I'm Abdul Basit Raju Ahmad, and I'll be discussing. Okay, I think I need to share my screen. So, Mr. Moyo, sorry, please can you take down your slides? All right, thank you. Okay, yeah. So I'll be talking about the career pathways in GRC, the skills, the roles, and the opportunities in the GRC domain. So I think Mr. Moyosori has said a lot about what GRC is, and I'll not need to repeat that. But for cybersecurity, I think cybersecurity has a thing for everybody. Right? Cybersecurity has something to offer everybody. Everybody in the sense that people are categorized into two major parts. We have the people that are technical and people that are non-technical, as we can have it. So, for example, we might have people who really enjoy technical things, people that like coding, people that like, right? And on the other hand, we might have people that are not really interested in all those codes, all those stuffs that seem to be technical. So, the cybersecurity has something for people that are technical and for people that are not technical. And some might actually say GRC is not technical, but I feel before you can be a GRC expert, you have to be at least technical to an extent. So we'll be diving into the career pathways in GRC and the skills, the roles, and the opportunities that GRC has for us. So governance, risk, and compliance is a growing field with diverse career opportunities. And we can say it is one of the fastest growing domains in cybersecurity. As we all know that cybersecurity has a lot of domains, right? Which GRC happens to be one of the cybersecurity domains. So GRC is actually growing fast because organizations are now seeing the reason to be compliant, to manage risk, to prioritize risk management, to prioritize data privacy, and to be regulatory compliant, right? Because there is a fine for non-compliance. If organizations do not comply with regulatory bodies, right, there's a huge fine, right, that can jeopardize the financials of the organization and as well the reputation of the organization as well. So at this point, organizations now see the need, right, to employ and to bring the GRC analysts on board, right? So the GRC analysts are going to solve a whole lot of problems right, for organizations, so as to reduce their possible risks and to protect them from regulatory fines, because these regulatory fines can be a whole lot, right? And a mistake from an organization can cost the organization millions of dollars as fines. So now the organizations are seeing reasons and needs to employ GRC analysts. So the career pathways in GRC to start with, right? So there are a lot of careers in GRC that we can venture into, right? So depending on our strengths as well, as I have said, that cybersecurity has something for everybody, right? So according to your strengths, you can look at, oh, these are my strengths, these are the skills that I have. And I'm still going to talk about the skills that can translate into into GRC, into being a very good GRC analyst. So when we talk about the career pathways in GRC, there are a whole lot of careers. There are a whole lot of roles that we can pick in GRC. For example, the first one we'll be taking today is a risk analyst, right? So risk analyst, as you said, that GRC means governance, risk, and compliance. So managing risk is one of the major roles of any GRC analyst, right? So now the role GRC, a risk analyst, plays a crucial role in identifying, accessing, and mitigating risks that can impact an organization's reputation. There are three keywords here: identifying risks, assessing risks, and mitigating risks, right? So it's a risk analyst that will look at, oh, this thing is a risk. This loophole that is in this system or that is in this organization is a risk. It is a potential risk that can be exploited, right? So that is the first task of a risk analyst: identify this is a risk and this is the level of this risk, right? Then the next thing is assessing the risk. So what are the possible impacts that this risk can cause the organization? Is it a financial risk? Is it a reputational risk, right? Or is it a risk that can even disrupt the whole structure or the system of the organization, right? So, and the last thing here is mitigating, right? Mitigating the risk. So they've been able to identify the risk. They've accessed the level of impact. Now they have to come up with a mitigation plan, right? So it is the risk analyst that will mitigate against security risks. So their daily tasks involves analyzing potential threats, right? They need to analyze the threats that can be exploited and as well recommending security controls and ensuring compliance. So when there is a risk, they have to recommend and put security controls in place by mitigating such risk, security controls that can mitigate such risk, and as well ensuring compliance with regulations, right? Because not complying with regulatory bodies is a risk as well, right? And it can cost an organization so much. So they have to deal with it, right? They ensure compliance with regulations. So basically what they do, things they do majorly is risk identification as an assessment, as I've said earlier, right? Second thing is they work on risk mitigation strategies. They come up with strategies to mitigate risks, right? This thing has an impact on an organization. Well, how can we do away with such risk? How can we avoid this risk so it will not impact the organization, right? So they work on mitigation strategies. And they as well use assessment frameworks. They use assessment frameworks like ISO 31000, right? This framework is used to assess the system of an organization, and what are the possible impacts these risks can have on an organization, right? And they as well work with cybersecurity and financial risk teams as well. So, for example, now they already came up with a mitigation strategy. It's a plan to mitigate a certain risk, right? Now they've been able to come up with this plan, and it requires something technical, right? Mostly cyber GRC analysts might not be, the risk analysts might not be people that will write code to mitigate a risk, a potential risk or something, but they work with the cybersecurity team, the technical guys, to work to create and to implement such mitigation plans, right? And they as well work with financial risk teams as well, because the risk at times might be financial. So these are the things, key objectives and tasks of a risk analyst. So now we're moving to the compliance officer, right? So we have GRC, risk, governance, risk, and compliance, right? So now we need to put in we need to talk about the compliance officer. So a compliance officer is an officer that ensures an organization follow laws, right? So there are stated laws that each and every organization has to follow, right? So the person that ensure that the organization comply with these laws, regulations, right, and policies is the compliance officer, right? So it has to look into the structure and into the system that, oh, are we compliant with this regulation that has to deal with us? For example, the EPA now, right? So EPA deals with the health sector, right? So every health organization, every organization that deals with health has to be compliant with EPA, right? So it is the compliance officer that will look at, oh, okay, so EPA said that we need to protect our patients' data in so manner. Are we compliant? Are we doing it the right way, right? So when we want to transfer our patients' details, it has to follow pattern. It has to be encrypted. It has to be this. It has to be that. There's the compliance officer that will look into that. Are we compliant with these standards? Are we compliant with these regulations and policies, right? So it's the compliance officer that will make sure that an organization follow laws, regulations, policies, and as well mitigate risk and maintain ethical standards, right? So it is the risk compliance officer that will do that. Their daily responsibilities involves monitoring compliance program, right? So there is a guideline that every organization has to follow. It is the compliance officer that will look at, are we following? They have to monitor it, right? Oh, okay. So is it going to, like, the monitoring has to come? Okay, are we monitoring it every day, weekly, monthly, right? Even though that's part of the task of the auditor as well. So they look at, so what are the things we are doing right, and what are the things that we are doing wrong, right? So they conduct audits as well, right? It might be monthly audits, like it might be weekly audits, it might be after every three months, depending on the policy, the internal policy of the organization, right? So they train employees as well. The compliance officer as well, they train the employees, right, to be compliant. So you do not just do what you're not supposed to do, right? So training is actually very important for the employees. So, for example, there was a case whereby a guy he actually accessed an information, like a data that he was not supposed to access, right? Which if he was being trained, right, he wouldn't have done that, right? So it has to, like, he brought down a system of a multinational organization, right? So just for doing that. So if he was trained, he wouldn't have done that. So training employees as well, it's part of the work of the compliance officer, and ensuring regulatory adherence. So that's very important. So majorly the things they do is they ensure the company adheres to regulations like GDPR, EPA, PCI DSS, and SOX, right? So GDPR deals with data, EPA deals with health, PCI DSS deals with payment card, and SOX deals with international relations, right? So any organization, and there are still a lot of regulations, right? So any of these organizations, they have to ensure, compliance officer has to, like, ensure that they are adhering to them, right? So they as well develop compliance policies and procedures, right? They develop the policies, example for internal policies, that also staffs must not access so and so data. They have to request for an access to use so data, right? So they develop these policies as well, right? They conduct internal audits and risk assessments. So they conduct audits severally to make sure that they are compliant. The next role we're talking about is data privacy officer, right? That's the DPO, right? So a data privacy officer is responsible for ensuring that an organization complies with the protection laws like GDPR, CCPA, and EPA, right? So now when we are talking about the data aspect, and most of the organizations now deals with data, right? So there's always a need for data privacy officer, because it's this data privacy officer that will look into how organization is handling their data, right? Data that is being received from our clients. How are we handling it? Are we compliant, right, with regulations? Are we compliant with laws that protect people's data, right? Can we just share people's data? Oh, I know so person. Let me share his data with my friend. Oh, right. So, for example, now I work in a bank, right? So, and maybe I have someone that did a wrong transfer, probably. So it mistakenly transferred to a wrong account. But because I'm working in a bank, right, I can have access to the person's details, right? So now, because I can have access to the person's details, and my brother mistakenly did a transfer to a wrong number, do I have to disclose the person's data? No, that is wrong, right? So that is part of what the data privacy officer would have to enlighten people, the workers on. So their daily task involves monitoring data privacy policies, right? Policies that protect data. You have to keep monitoring it, that your organization is compliant with those policies, right? Handling data subject to requests, conducting risk assessments, and advising leadership on privacy matters. And to what level should we protect people's data and people's information, right? So they'll be the one advising the leaderships and the head of organizations on that. So their major tasks is that they ensure compliance with data protection laws, like we've said, and they work with legal and IT teams to safeguard personal data, right? They have to protect people's data, like by all means. Right. And another thing is, the third thing is, they handle data breaches response and risk management. If there's a data breach, they have to be on ground, right? So, and see what the problem is, that probably we didn't comply with so regulation, right? So then the next role we'll be talking about is the GRC consultant. So a GRC consultant it helps organizations implement and improve their GRC frameworks to mitigate risk. Right, so he's a consultant. An organization is going to consult a GRC consultant to help them improve their security posture, right? To manage the major thing is to manage risk and to protect the data of an organization. So, but for GRC consultants, it has to be to improve their GRC frameworks and to comply with regulation, because GRC deals more with regulations, right? So what are the regulations they have to follow? It is GRC consultant that will recommend this, right? And to establish strong governance structures, right? So what the GRC consultant is going to offer an organization is that their compliance, right? How better they can comply with regulations so they don't get fined. So their daily tasks involve risk assessments, policy development, compliance audits, security control recommendations, and advisory support to clients, right? So these are the major tasks of GRC consultants. So their major things are to advise companies on risk management and compliance, right? They develop and implement governance framework. So there are all these frameworks that we've set, right? They have bodies that come up, that develop them, right? So GRC consultants might as well be like part of these bodies that come up with that, develop these frameworks, right? And the third thing is they work with regulatory agencies. Yes, they work with regulatory agencies and clients. So a regulatory body is saying that, so client has to do this and do this and do this, right? Then on the other hand, the GRC consultant is consulting for the clients that these are the things you have to follow, these are the guidelines you have to follow, and these are the policies you have to adhere to, right? So now to the auditor, right? So either internal or external auditor, right? So a cybersecurity auditor is responsible for evaluating an organization's security controls, right? Policies, regulatory compliance, and identify vulnerabilities and risks, right? So the auditor has to like conduct audits frequently, right? To see if the organization is still compliant, right? And evaluate the security controls that, what are the controls the organization is putting in place? Does just one person has access to the entire data of the organization? Is the organization safe from cyber attacks? What are the redundancy plan? What are the contingency plan that the organization has? Right. So it is the auditor that will review all this, right? And to as well make sure that they are compliant with policies, right? And as well identify their vulnerabilities and risks. Right? So their work ensures that companies meet industry standards and regulations like ISO 27001, right? SOC 2, NIST, PCI DSS, and EPA, and every other. So they have to make sure that companies meet these standards. So ISO 27000 has a standard that it has set up for IT organizations, right? PCI DSS has standards that are set up for payments, card payments stuffs, right? HIPAA has a standard that are set for healthcare sector, right? So it is the auditor that would make sure and ensure that organizations comply with all these regulatory bodies, right? So what the cybersecurity auditors do is they review internal controls, financial statements, and IT security, right? They as well ensure regulatory compliance and identify risks, and they work with cybersecurity frameworks. So all the frameworks that we listed earlier, they work with them and make sure that organizations are compliant and live to the standard of these organizations, of these frameworks. So now, we're talking about the transferable skills for GRC. So we all have, from whatever, like I said earlier, that cybersecurity has a thing for everybody, right? So we all have a skill that we have within us. So how can these skills, how can they translate, or how can you transfer these skills into being a GRC expert? So breaking into GRC does not always require cybersecurity background. You have to learn how to code, you have to learn how to use Linux, you have to be a network engineer before you become a cybersecurity. No, GRC does not require all that background, right? So many skills from finance, law, project management, customer service, and IT can be applied to GRC roles, right? And let's bear in mind that all those roles that I listed earlier, there are still a whole lot more, right? Like a few days ago, I was on Twitter now, and I saw someone saying roles like that. They were even strange roles to me. I was like, I had to like Google some and say, wow. So even in this cybersecurity, there are still roles like this. So whatever you can think of, right? There's a way or the other that it can transfer into or translate into GRC, right? So people from law, right? GRC majorly is full of laws, policies, right? So a person who has background in law, right, can as well do GRC because this person is not new to compliance and policies and all that, right? Finance as well. So finance. So this person will know more about risk, financial risk and all that, and how they can mitigate it. So that can as well translate into GRC. Right, project management. Right, so executing a project, auditing, cybersecurity awareness. So a project manager can as well do all this. Customer service and other fields can transition into GRC, right? But there are key skills that are required that everybody must have, right? So which are analytical thinking. So a GRC person has to have great analytical thinking skill, right? So because it is with these skills you identify risk. Right? Someone that cannot think cannot identify risk, because you'll be seeing a risk like this and you will not even identify that, oh, this is it. So you have to think critically that, oh, wait, this thing is a risk. It can have impact on the organization if we don't do this. If we do this, this will happen. If we don't do this, then it can jeopardize the organization's reputation or other things that can be at lost. Right? So with analytical thinking, you can analyze regulations, because the bodies that are giving regulations, they are just going to put it in text, right? So you have to analyze this. Oh, how does this affect our organization? How does this impact our organization, right? And solving compliance issues, right? So as a GRC analyst, you have to solve compliance issue. For example, there is third-party risk management as well, TPRM, right? So a TPRM person would have to see that, oh, we are in a third party for a service. How can, and there's probably a conflict of interest. How can we solve this challenge, right? So you have to have the analytical thinking skill. Another thing is attention to details, right? Because it is common that even it is majority of us here, if we have a test now and ask that, how many of us read through the policies before we click agree and continue, right? If you read the policies and the rules before clicking agree and continue, can you say hi? Just type hi in the chat box. We'll see that majority of us, like 95% of us, only few out of the few, right, read through before they click on agree and continue. We're all victims. But as a GRC analyst, you have to be very, very conscious, and you have to pay attention to details, because you review contracts, policies, security controls, right? So if you don't pay attention to details, you fall into errors, and that will cost the organization so much, right? So much that it will be very, very, very hard on the organization to bear. Right. So and as well, communication skills. All right. So a GRC analyst must exhibit a very good communication skills, because you'll be writing policies, right? You'll be writing policies, you'll be writing reports. You'll be training employees on compliance. You let them know why they should be compliant and the punishment for non-compliance, right? So if your communication skill is poor, right, it's a thing you can work on if you are looking into GRC. And as well, project management, because you'll be managing compliance initiatives. You'll be managing a lot of projects as a GRC analyst, right? So we have to there's a project that, oh, this organization, they are contacting us for managing their threats, right? So it's a project that it can take days, right? So compliance projects, compliance initiatives, audits, and risk mitigation projects. Because to mitigate risk, it's a project on its own that you have to delegate tasks to people. Oh, so what are the possible risks that can befall the organization? Or what are the possible threats that can come up from this? And you understand? So a project manager as well has a hand in GRC. So legal and regulatory knowledge, right? So this is for people that are familiar with law, because they have to understand law. At times to translate law, at times it's a lot. The organization is stating, the regulatory body is stating so law. How do you translate it into what your organization needs and what the organization have to be aware of, right? So, and as well, technical and cybersecurity awareness. So a GRC analyst, you need to have basic knowledge, right? So basic knowledge of frameworks like NIST, ISO 27001, and SOC 2. So you have to have basic knowledge of these frameworks. So now we'll talk about certifications and resources to get started. So we have 3 types of certification. We have the entry-level certification, we have the mid-level certifications, and we have the advanced certifications. So the entry-level certifications, they are certified in GRC, CGRC. So this introduces you to basic governance and risk compliance. Right? So it's an entry-level certificate. And we have Certified Compliance and Ethics Professional, CCEP. So for whoever is looking to become a compliance officer, right, you can take this certification, right? Certified Information Privacy Professional, CIPP, right? So for data privacy, for DPOs, for data privacy officers, right? So you can look into getting the certification. And for mid-level certifications, we have Certified Risk and Information Systems Control, right? So this focuses on IT risk management, risks that can be for IT organization and IT sectors, right? So we have another mid-level certification, which is Certified Information System Auditors, CISA, right? So best for IT auditors, right? And we have ISO 27001, leads implementer and auditor, helps in security compliance roles, right? So these are the mid-level certification. And for the advanced level certifications, we have Certified Information System Security Professional, CISSP. It is for strong cybersecurity compliance, right? So, and we have Certified Regulatory Compliance Manager, CRCM. So for financial compliance. So, and Matthew, to get started, right, we can take entry-level certification. So I think that's all for my first speech. Then I'll be back. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you later. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Abdulbasit. That was a wonderful and engaging lecture. We really appreciate hearing from you. Now we're going to be moving forward to our back to our first speaker for today, which is Mr. Moyosore. So Mr. Moyosore, the floor is all yours. We'd like to hear from you as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me pull up my slide again. Okay. So this time I'll be taking my second topic, which is how to forge your cybersecurity future, crafting your unique journey. Now, the truth is, you might want to be a GRC analyst, you might want to be that guy on the offensive side of cybersecurity, that guy on the defensive side of cybersecurity. There are different roles in these different three pillars, what I call the three pillars. I personally call it that way, you understand? But everything will always fall in between these three, never forget. But now, do you want to be on the offensive, defensive, or GRC side? It's your decision to make. I can't, tell you, enforce anything to anyone. But we know with the conversations we're having now, you'll be able to decide what you really want to do. So, which pillar are you grabbing onto? Which pillar? Is it the offensive? Is it the defensive or the GRC side of cybersecurity? You understand? The offensive guys are the red guys. The GRC guys, I just came up with that color, but the defensive guys are always the blue, red team, blue team. You understand all of this, right? So which of those pillars do you want to grab hold to? I came up with a framework, which is the three-tiered cybersecurity prioritization model, right? Let me explain what this is. Because now, the end goal for most of you is to get a job in cybersecurity. Yeah, I believe that's what it is. Now, you need to ask yourself, you are getting the job in cybersecurity with organizations of different sizes. Now, when we say the three-tier, we are talking about small organizations, medium organizations, and large organizations. They're from bottom to top, or however, you understand. So now, so in order for you to decide which particular aspect of cybersecurity to go into that you feel would really make more sense, let us look at this three-tiered cybersecurity prioritization model. For small organizations, I mean, you need to know, okay, what's the demand among all these organizations, which can be grouped as medium, small, large? What's the demand for cybersecurity experts? So you know how to make your decision. Now, the small organizations will definitely prioritize defensive security because their priority is to harden their systems to spot threats and mitigate against risks. These people have limited resources. They deprioritize offensive security and GRC due to limited funds and compliance requirements. They don't have the funds, and their compliance requirements will not be as huge as that of a medium scale organization or a large scale organization. Most small organizations don't need that much. So their priority will not be to do pen tests. You understand? Because they are not really going to be very much targeted by attackers as bigger organizations who have more resources. And they don't need to comply to so many regulations and so they don't really need GRC guys. So know that the guys that are going to have an edge in that aspect are the defensive guys, because they are just there to make sure they protect the organization's IT infrastructure. Now, the medium organizations, what do they need? The GRC, now these ones can afford to have more than one team. Let me say, the GRC guys become relevant here because compliance requirements and risk management have become important. The defensive security is still crucial for these guys. And they continue to prioritize defensive security to protect against threats. So can you see the GRC guys are coming in here when it comes to medium organizations? And then we still have the defensive guys. Now, for large organizations, all three roles are essential. The offensive security guys, the defensive security guys, and the GRC guys are all critical components of a comprehensive, cybersecurity strategy. Sorry, these are the tiers, tier 1, tier 2. I forgot to move the slide. And tier 3, that's where we are right now. You get, so, they want to simulate cyber attacks. They want just everything. They have the resources. They deal with more sensitive information, more critical infrastructure, and any cyber attack against them can be very, very devastating. So these guys have to prioritize cybersecurity to the core, and thank God they have the resources to do this. So offensive security guys come in here, the defensive security guys and GRC guys can come in here. This was an analogy that I came up with just with common sense, because you will see people out there telling you, oh, ethical hackers. The end, okay, maybe as a freelance ethical hacker, if you find success in pen testing or whatever it is for different organizations, maybe you can be richer than whoever you are richer than. But we're just looking at common mathematics, you understand? Who would you actually pick a pen tester as against maybe a security analyst or something you get, or a GRC guy? So we've seen all of this, and there is a justification for the reasoning. The offensive, defensive, and GRC are all critical components of a large organization. So in conclusion, if you look at it on this aspect, what area do you think is, should you look at? If you are looking at GRC, which I believe that's the reason why most of you are here, then you know that GRC guys are more like, will be needed in medium to large organizations. So your target should be the medium to large organizations when you are looking for job opportunities. Generalists are, those ones that are with broad skills, because there are some that have skills in GRC that are having the offensive and defensive side of cybersecurity. They will often have more job opportunities because they are more flexible. So a small organization will pick that kind of person as against someone who is just on the offensive or the GRC side or just one side. The defensive security guys are also in consistent demand, just like we analyzed with the small organizations. GRC professionals are more relevant to the medium and large organizations. Offensive security guys are often prioritized in larger organizations with more complex security needs. So that's it. So if looking at the analogy I gave now, like I said, I'm not going to tell you what to do. What is your interest really? What's your goal? You can answer that question. If you really want to do the GRC thing, just know that your target should be some kind of organizations that will actually need you for full-time employment. You understand? Of course, you can freelance for organizations in different levels and all that, but full-time employment in GRC, you should be looking at medium organizations, because the small organizations cannot really have a full-time GRC analyst within the organization. Now, so the key takeaway from this is, okay, what I already explained to you. Yeah. So now the big question that I was asked by this person, that question that I said I was asked that I never gave an answer to, which is better in GRC and the other pillars of cybersecurity in the long term. You want to see yourself having a very rewarding and, good career in cybersecurity in long term. You want to see what would pay off to you in the long run. Oh, is it better for me my journey should be that of a pen tester? Well, where will I be in the next 20 years, 10 years? Should I be a GRC analyst and stuff like that? All these questions, I will still maintain you answer it by yourself from the analogy I'm going to give to you. So for those who are in the offensive side of cybersecurity, you have the long-term opportunity of becoming the chief information security officer within an organization. You have the opportunity of being the head of threat intelligence, the head of penetration testing, the chief security architect, the VP of security engineering, if you choose to be, on the offensive side of cybersecurity. Now, if you choose to be on the defensive side of cybersecurity, what's your long-term prospect? You can also be the CISO within an organization. You can be the head of incident response. You can be the head of security operations. That's the SOC. You can be the chief security architect. You can be the VP of a security engineering, right? Now, for the one that attracts majority of you, what's your long-term process? You can be the chief risk officer. You can be the chief compliance officer. You can be a chief information security officer. If you notice, any one of you can eventually become a CISO, whether you are coming from the GRC aspect, and the CISO is number one person when it comes to cybersecurity within an organization. You can be the chief operation officer, and you can be the chief executive officer. I believe you are a little bit surprised. Just like Basit said, even people coming from law understand compliance to a great degree. That's one thing with people from in the GRC aspect. So you can even be the CEO, and I will analyze everything to you, right? I will analyze. Okay, sorry. If you become a GRC analyst or a GRC professional, you have an edge, a slight edge though, in terms of career flexibility. Of course, possibilities are large for every of the pillars, but when it comes to the flexibility and possibility, or you have more edge over the offensive and the defensive guys, because you are going to be able to take on non-security specific leadership roles, but the others cannot necessarily take on them since they are strictly security professionals. Because this is it. These guys have so many things that actually make them. Sorry, give me a second. 1 second, guys. Okay, sorry, I'm back. So why do you as GRC analysts have more flexibility for career opportunities outside of anything security? Because you have, as GRC guys, you in the process, in your journey, you've been able to develop a deep understanding of the organization's operations, the risks and strategic objectives. The business acumen you have enables them to make informed decisions that balance risk, compliance, and the needs of the organizations. And GRC professionals work closely with different departments within the organization. They work with finance, they work with audit, operations, just cross-functional, responsibilities. So, and they also have leadership skills. They develop strong leadership skills. They work with various stakeholders, executives, and so on. And all these skills are transferable. That's why you can work in operations, finance, strategy, and so on. So these are all things that make you have flexible career opportunities. So at this point, you should be able to tell yourself, okay, what do I really want? Do I really want to be a GRC specialist? Do I want to be on the offensive? Do I want to be on the defensive side of cybersecurity? Do I want to transition into something outside of security later? Maybe I can go for GRC. Do I want to stick to security but rise to the pinnacle of my career in this particular space? This should help you answer the question. You see, in conclusion, what I will say is this, right? You are either here because I know one of the reasons why some of you are in this meeting is because some of you might have tried to be technical in cybersecurity. You've learned the operating systems, the command line, you've learned networking, you've learned programming languages and all of that. They seem very daunting and intimidating and stressful. And then you are looking for a way to ease yourself of the stress. And that is why some of you are here, right? Because at the end of the day, the learning curve is very, very huge. You understand? The learning curve is huge when it comes to the technicalities of cybersecurity. Now, but then we also have those who are resolved. I know I was talking to somebody one day, a particular man who told me that his own interest is in GRC. I do not want to deal with anything Linux and things like that. All this, I think he used one word, he said bullshit or something like that. I can't remember. He doesn't want to deal with technicalities. That's what he said. So those are people that have the resolve. Now, that it is GRC they want. But if yours is because, for example, you've gone through some sort of training program, but you're not yet proficient in the technicalities of cybersecurity, but you want to launch a career in cybersecurity, my advice to you is that you should, or my suggestion is, you should start with GRC. I always say that. You understand? Start with GRC. It's doable. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's broad. It's a field you will even want to stay in. It's all equally as prestigious. You understand? You don't have to be that techie guy. Start in that place. Rome was not built in a day. Keep building yourself. Keep building your technical skills as you're already in the field. Because if you do not do that, what happens is if you are waiting till you are very proficient with Linux, if you are waiting till you are proficient with some programming languages and things like that, all of that, networking and all of that, the hands-on aspect of cybersecurity, you might end up giving up before you land a dream job because you will never feel you are good enough. You understand? Because there's always going to be so much more to learn. But if you can start with the GRC aspect, get yourself into the industry. Start working while you are building your technical skills. That is for those of you who don't know how to, who feel like, oh, it's so stressful. I have a lot to learn. I've been learning 1 year, 2 years. There's so much more. Start with what you can start with. You understand? I'm not saying GRC is something you can water down on. At least you can see everything from what we've discussed. That GRC is a very broad field in its own. But for those who struggle with technicalities, and being able to grab these things very fast, take your time, but start with the place you can actually cope with. So if GRC is the way to go, find a way to immediately start building your portfolio. Your achievement is what matters. The projects you've done, your certifications, find gigs, help organizations become compliant to some of these regulations, the ISO standard, the HIPAA for healthcare, the NDPA, the PCI DSS, and so on. Be creative. Your goal is to fight for your dreams. Yes, you can break into this space. Just forge your own path, because one thing you need to know is that you are at a disadvantage because you didn't start out in cybersecurity as a career. Just like I said, some people started when they were age 10, they were teenagers and things like that. Some are coming in here to make it work for themselves and not at a young age. But it's not that it is impossible for you to actually achieve these things. You understand? It's just the mindset, and you shouldn't be making excuses. Find a way to make it work for you. Let me give you an example. There's somebody on YouTube, one guy, very popular on YouTube. What's his name again? Boy Clevis, I think. He's always preaching GRC, you understand? And if you read his story, or if you listen to his story, where he came from a field that was not in relation to cybersecurity, not even so technology oriented. He knows nothing. He knew, I don't know if he knows now, knew or knows nothing of anything hands-on in cybersecurity, whether it is anything hands-on, whether it is the command line, anything technical or programming, he knows nothing. And he has always, been preaching to people you can get into this field, and he tells his own story. He tells his story. And his story is very believable. He had an action plan. He had a plan for himself on how he wanted to achieve his goal, how he transitioned, and how he became a leader in cybersecurity through the GRC field. You understand? So it's just how smart you can be as an individual when you are getting into the field. Don't let anybody tell you this is how it's supposed to be. You have to have your own plans. I personally also came into the field of cybersecurity from a non-technical background. You understand? And, I came with a desire to make an impact in this space. And when I came into this space, I created a roadmap to achieving my own personal goals. And I wanted to, the goal was to run a cybersecurity business, make impact, help people, and do everything. And beautifully, you understand, I'm doing my thing. You get, so whatever it is I want to do, I'm able to do in the field. If I want to consistently work in cybersecurity, I would find a roadmap to make it work. If I want to get the biggest jobs in cybersecurity, it's not my business I want to run or anything, I will do that. You understand? Because I know how to bet on myself and strategize to achieve my goals. So my point is, don't look at anybody out there. Don't wait for anybody to tell you what to do. Don't follow people. Try to push and fight for your dreams with your own personal strategy. And one thing I want to say to you again is this: don't let anybody intimidate you. Some people will try to make you feel like you are less smart because you are not on the technical side of cyber. I'm talking from experience. Do you understand what I'm saying? I am on the technical side of cybersecurity. I'm not a GRC analyst. Do you understand? But of course, I understand GRC very well. I'm on the technical side, but it's a choice. You understand? But more of a business person, you get. But I know that you are in a space where people will make you feel inadequate because you're not on the technical side. Even sometimes I create content also, and I joke around. I created one content where I was like chasing one of the students to go back to class to go and learn programming, someone who is more interested in GRC. And a GRC expert came into reacted to the video laughing like, we don't need the programming, which is absolutely true. You don't need it. It's all play. You understand? Cruise. You understand? But some people are serious about this. Don't let anybody intimidate you. You have a very good opportunity at a very, very good career in GRC. And at the end of the day, there will be people in GRC who will never succeed and people in the offensive or defensive side that will never succeed. And there will be those who have succeeded. An example is, for example, that guy I talked about who is in GRC field and is very, very successful in his, cybersecurity field. So, it's just like somebody who is maybe a security engineer, maybe someone with an ethical hacker making you feel dull. What if anybody makes you feel some kind of way? Tell them, it's like you're an artist or a record label or you're a producer, and then somebody is telling you that you are not it. You are the face of that music. You are the one that brings it out there. Tell them you are just a sound engineer. You understand? You are just going to always be behind the scenes. Be petty as they are petty also. Hold yourself with confidence. Be proud of what you are doing. I'm saying this for those who feel like this space, the GRC space is not good enough for them. You understand? Because I know there are people that feel that way, and it's very important for you to know that you are also in cybersecurity and you are even the ones calling the shots, telling them what to do. You understand? Now, so that is it, guys. Let me say thank you for this moment. But as I conclude, one of us is going to introduce to you. We have a GRC program among our different programs that are coming up. We have a pen testing program coming up next month for those who are interested in the offensive side of cybersecurity. We also have a long-term cybersecurity program, which is more geared towards those who are interested in, the defensive side of cybersecurity. But the beauty of that one is it's a very long program, intensive, covers the different aspects of cybersecurity from GRC, offensive, defensive sides, and it gives you a room to also be able to know exactly what your sense of direction is going to be. Interestingly, we also have a GRC program coming up, and which one of us is going to present to you as I conclude. But let me first say, before I leave, thank you for being with us today. Whether you are just exploring or ready to dive in, remember that cybersecurity is one of the most prestigious and in-demand fields in the global stage. Your journey in this arena is not only a personal pursuit, but also a vital contribution to safeguarding our digital future, a future where your expertise can prevent chaos on a scale that might even rival a cyber third world war. The world is talking about people say that the next world war could even be a cyber war. You understand? They call it Cybergeddon. So just know that you guys are actually in the right space. Whatever you're doing right now is of interest to several nations across the world. Every step you take opens doors to opportunities worldwide, and every challenge you are able to overcome reinforces the defense of a digital world that depends on skilled professionals like you. We are here to support you at Forward Edge if you become one of us at every turn you take in your dreams. And we are committed to making sure we help you also make your dreams become a reality. So let's today be the spark that ignites your passion, empowering you to forge your own path, embracing the challenges ahead and transform uncertainty into global impact. Thank you very much for being a part of this program as I end my own part. You understand? Thank you very much for being a part of this as I conclude. And please make sure you keep pushing the boundaries, whether you're going to be a part of the Forward Edge community or not. You are part of the community, but whether you're going to take a training and getting to know us or dealing with us one-on-one or not, just make sure that you keep pushing these boundaries and try your best to achieve your dreams in this space. Thank you very much. So before we go into the next speaker, we're going to be introducing the person who is going to be mentioned. Is going to briefly just touch on the programs we have before the next speaker is going to conclude with his own part. Thank you. So, host, are you going to introduce him? Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, sir, for such wise and encouraging words. So, to introduce our upcoming GRC program, we have Mr. Abisayo. He's going to tell you all about the program. So, Mr. Abisayo, you have the floor.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm sure that you are all excited. Well, can you all hear me? Can you hear me, everyone? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. All right. I'm sure that you are very excited about this webinar. You've learned a lot. I've learned a lot myself. I mean, that's been very amazing. And I know that there's so many one of us that wants to go into GRC. You know, when I heard about GRC, the first time I heard about GRC was in 2023 when I was, just learning more about tech. It's about this case, Silicon Valley Bank. Many of us they are aware about the collapse that happened 2023. That was a GRC failure. Now the bank collapsed. That was March, if I'm not mistaken. You know, now Silicon Valley is a very, very major bank, major financial institution, and specialized in banking services for tech startups, venture capitalist firms, and whatnot. So something very key happened that particular time. Now they heavily invested in US government bonds. And normally US government bond is supposed to be safe. And so they were just pouring money into it. Then something happened at about 2022 to 2023. There was a rapid increase in interest rates. And so because of that, the bonds dropped significantly. So now, at that point in time, venture capitalists were not investing in startups any longer. And so many of the SVP startups clients, they needed a lot of cash to run their company, their tech startup. And so they started withdrawing cash from Silicon Valley Bank. And because they were withdrawing the cash at a very high rate, SVP, they had to sell their bonds and they made a huge loss just to meet the demand. Now, this caused this led to panic in the company. Bank run, more depositors rushed in to withdraw their money, and everything was in shambles. Now, that led to the collapse of the particular bank. So that was the first time I actually stumbled on GRC, and I realized that at that point in time, a lot of companies, they needed cybersecurity experts in that particular field, and the demand actually rose. So this webinar is very exciting, and like I said, I'm very sure that many of us are really, really excited to enroll in the course. So I'm not going to spend more time now. I'm just going to share my screen with you, and then I'm going to show you about how to enroll for it. As many of you who want to enroll, who want to tell a friend, a brother, a sister. I'm going to replace the current share now. All right, just give me a minute. Mm. Mm. Yeah. All right. So while I share my screen, I'm going to share the link with you guys. So maybe some of you can also be checking it out as I'm sharing my screen too. So the link is on the chat section. You can easily just check it out. All right. Please, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So, I believe that you all have already seen the link I shared in the chat section. Yeah. So you can just click on it so that while I'm telling you about the landing page, you can also relate to it. So this is the landing page, master governance, risk, and compliance use details. So you just click the link. There's a button here that says enroll now. So you can click on it. It's going to take you to the place where you enroll. This, in case for some of you, maybe you have friends, you have brothers, you have sisters, cousins who might want to know more about it. You can just go through. There is a brief description of the course here, what you're going to learn, who should take the course. They are all here for your perusal. The structure of the course is going to be 6 weeks, 2 classes per week. There is going to be an online session, physical session, and these are the curriculum. So this is the curriculum in case maybe people want to know what it's about. These are the curriculum. We're talking about governance and corporate compliance. It's going to cover 2 weeks. That is week 1 to week 2. So it's going to cover the introduction to the GRC and corporate governance frameworks, building organizational policies and ethical compliance. The class 3 is regulatory requirements and legal implications, GDPR, HIPAA, ISO 27001. Then class 4 is developing compliance programs and audit readiness. So that's what you're going to be doing for week 1 to week 2. Then week 3 to week 4, where you're going to be talking about the risk management and business. We're going into introduction to GRC and corporate governance frameworks. That's class 1. Class 2, you're going to talk about building organizational policies and ethical compliance. This is an amazing course. Like it's packed with so much potential. Then we have regulatory requirements and legal implications, GDPR, HIPAA, ISO. So for many of you who might want to maybe work in a company where you're going to be a cybersecurity expert there, or you might even want to start your own company, because nowadays for you to start a company on your own, you need this knowledge. It's not just about you working for a company. You need to actually gain the knowledge for yourself as well. So you won't start up a company and then after like 5 years or 10 years of running, you realize that you are doing something wrong and they'll just shut you down for no reason. Yeah, so class 4 is developing compliance programs and audit readiness. Now that's going to what you're going to cover for week 3 to week 4.
Sorry, quick one. Sorry for breaking in. I'm reading the messages, though we are going to attend to all your questions, okay, when the class is over. Don't forget, and there's still one more lecture, so be quick with this, Abisayo. But aside that, somebody is saying the site is loading slowly. Yeah, just as we said, just as we observed, you get. So that's something that we'll fix in a couple of hours. You don't have any cause or worry. You get. You can always even chat any of us up for your registration process, even if you are in a hurry. For example, somebody is saying, can we register later? That is after this program. Yes, you can register at any time after this is over. You understand? So we are together. We are in the community together. But this site is going to load faster in the coming next few hours. Okay, so I have no worry about that. But just pay attention to what it's doing. I just needed to clarify that quickly.
All right. So finally, thank you very much, sir, for that. For that, contribution. Those are asking questions. I believe your questions have been answered. So we're going to wrap up soon now. Then we have the final week. We're going to be week 5 to week 6. We're going to talk about the advanced GRC strategies and implementation. We're going to talk about implementing internal controls and conducting risk audits. Class 10 is going to be leveraging technology for compliance, monitoring, and automation. Then class 11 is going to be case studies, real-world GRC applications, and lessons learned. Then the final class is going to be capstone project, developing a GRC strategy for an organization. So these are what you're going to get. Amazing packs, like going to be very, very, very rich. Then this enrollment and pricing, we have the early bird, and then we have the standard price. So normally it's supposed to be ending February 28th, but because of that is the early bird, but because of you are just listening to it, some of you are just listening to it now, you're just hearing about it now. So we're going to extend the date for the early bird. So the moment it's maybe March 8th of March, then that means you are not going to be offering the early bird price again. So it's 150,000 naira for the early bird price. Then for the standard price, after that, the early bird window have expired, they're going to pay 200,000. So to enroll, all you have to do is just to click this button here, this blue button. To enroll, it's going to take you to our seller account. We have an account on seller where we normally make purchases. So you can come here, over here, you can just click on buy now. You see the button here, this purple button that says buy now. You just click on it. If you want to pay in other currencies, you can see. Please, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Can you see my cursor? Can you see my cursor? Hello, can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Can you?
Yes, we can hear you clearly, okay?
All right. Okay, so yeah, okay. So yeah, so if you, in case you want to pay in other currency, you can just click on this. The other currencies you can pay for, can pay in pounds, you can pay in dollars. You can just click on dollars, for instance, and then you're going to be given the price in dollars. In dollars, you're going to pay, just click on buy now. So when you click on buy now, you click on checkout, you can go to the checkout, you put in your contact information, your name. So what happens is that seller will automatically create an account for you. So just click on name and then email. So then you pay with your card details. And then when you pay, we're going to get a notification from our end that you have paid for it. We'll contact you and they will give you the information about other processes to enroll. Now, there is something exciting that I want to share with you before I pass on the stage to my colleague. What I want to tell you is that you can actually pay, for those of us that are, that maybe they are more comfortable paying into installments. Yes, we have opportunity for you to pay in 2 installments. However, if you want to pay in 2 installments, just do reach out to any one of us, our team, so guide you through the process of registration, enrolling, so that you can pay in 2 installments. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for the time. At this point in time, I'm going to pass it on to the hosts.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Bisaya, for introducing that lovely program that we have coming up for on March 18th. Now, let's hear back from second speaker of the day, Mr. Abdul Basit, to round it up for us and just tell us a little more about GRC. So, Mr. Basit, you have the floor.
Thank you once again for having me. So yeah, now we'll be talking about breaking into GRC. Am I audible, please?
Yes, you are.
Am I audible? Thank you. So now I'll be talking about breaking into GRC. Like, how can you break into GRC? Right, it is one of the things that we all need. We need the guidance. Right, I have been on the technical part of GRC, and I have been on the GRC aspect, and I recommend the GRC aspect. No shades, no bans. So yeah, but how do we break into GRC? So the first thing to break into any aspect is to gain knowledge, right? So, but I want to just clear a misconception, because many people assume that cybersecurity background is a prerequisite for GRC roles. Cybersecurity background in the sense that anybody that wants to do GRC, you're supposed to fulfill the foundation of cybersecurity. You have to know networking. You have to know about cloud security. You have to know all of this. But the cybersecurity background is not a prerequisite for GRC roles, because that's not always the case, right? So with the right approach, skills, and networking, breaking into GRC is achievable even for individuals from non-technical backgrounds, right? So you don't need to have a technical background before you can be a GRC professional or a GRC analyst. So the first thing to do is to acquire the knowledge, right? How do you acquire the GRC knowledge, right? Because knowledge is important. So learn the GRC fundamentals with free or low cost learning resources, right? So you can start with free resources. You can go on YouTube, search cyber GRC, but or low cost learning resources, right? For example, this Forward Edge GRC course is cheap, as you can start with this, and it is going to like give you that knowledge, all that you need, right? Because I can see the curriculum and it is very, very, very loaded. So learn with free and low cost learning resources. That's the first thing you should do, right? Secondly, okay, I think someone is raising their hand. Why? Who is raising their hand? Is there anything? Shatima. Is there anything? Is there any reason for raising your hand?
I think you should proceed.
Okay, sir. So
Don't worry, questions are going to be addressed, okay? When there's a Q&A session, okay? So you can speak when he's done. Yeah.
all right. So the next thing is to learn the NIST cybersecurity framework, right? So the NIST cybersecurity framework, when you learn about it, it's going to give you a knowledge that is needed to get into the GRC field, right? Learn risk management principles. These are things that are key that I need to learn, right? Risk management principles, and get familiar with security compliance frameworks like ISO 27001 and SOC 2. And you get familiar with this security compliance framework, right? And as well, we take course on risk management, compliance, and auditing, right? You have the Coursera course, you have the Udemy course. You can take these courses to start your journey, right? And you can as well get beginner-friendly certifications, right? You can get beginner-friendly certifications. You do not start your career with advanced certifications like the CISSP, right? You might never even need the certification like in your entire career. So you start with beginner-friendly certifications. You can start with the CompTIA certification. You can start with CGRC certifications. These are beginner-friendly certifications that would give you so much knowledge, right? So the first thing is to acquire the knowledge. So these are ways you can acquire knowledge, and you can as well create a pathway for yourself, like Mr. Morasore said that he did for himself, right? You can as well do something for yourself. Although this is the path I want to follow, this is the way I want to learn, right? But make sure you're not doing that with ignorance. So yeah. The next thing is to get hands-on experience, right? So after acquiring the knowledge, you still need an experience, right? So because it is organizations will not hire someone that does not have at least experience, right? And it is difficult to break into the system because nobody will hire you before without experience. So now you have to get experience on your own, right? So how do you get this experience? How do you get hands-on experience without a job? Is by volunteering, right? You volunteer, right? By volunteering for compliance tasks at your current job, might be at your current job, the job that you currently do, or an open project, right? That you can contribute to, right? So there's an open project that requires a GRC skill or a compliance skill, right? You can volunteer to contribute to such projects or help organizations or projects with policy documentation, risk assessment, and internal audits, right? So you volunteer to do some of these GRC tasks for organizations or for projects, right? So this is going to add to your experience, and it is enough to build your resume, right? So you can join compliance meetings or security awareness trainings, right? So I saw some questions around what can the certification or the certificates that you're going to get from this webinar, what can it contribute to your cybersecurity, so your GRC journey? It can, because imagine a situation whereby you have someone, you are competing for a role with someone who has an equal certification as yours, but you have this an extra. Oh, I attended so webinar, so they'll believe that you've gained more insights from such webinar, right? So things like this can actually even strengthen your chances, right, of getting the opportunity or the offer. Right, so the first thing is by volunteering. Now, by creating sample GRC projects, right? So there are GRC projects, probably policies, risk assessment, threat analysis, and all that, right? So when you create a sample project, right, you can publish it, you can put it in your resume, you can build a portfolio with stuff like that, right? So these are some ideas. You can write a sample risk assessment for a company or industry you're interested in. If you're interested in the banking sector, you can write a risk assessment for them, right? Then you submit it to them. If they're interested in, they can call you. And even if they are not interested, it is adding to your experience, right? So you can develop a mock compliance policy, right? So you just come up with a policy that, oh, so whoever is doing this to do this and do it. So you just come up with a policy, just like the GDPR and EPA, right? So, and you can use free governance tools like NIST cybersecurity framework or risk management templates, right? So you can use these tools to like develop something and add it to your portfolio, right? So, and as well, you can break through in the field through internships and entry level roles, right? Through internships and entry level roles. So you look for risk analyst, compliance, and audit training roles, right? So you do not start from this GRC consultant role. No, start from entry level roles. So gradually you grow in the system. So now networking in GRC and job search strategies. So as we know that getting a job at this point is a lot, and it requires a lot of strategy and networking to break into any field, right? So breaking into GRC requires a strategic job search and strong networking, right? So before you can break into GRC, before you can get a GRC job, you need to be strategic with your search, right? And you need to build a strong network with people, right? You have to have a very good connect with people. So how do you stand out? Because actually, a lot of people are doing this as well. But how do you stand out? Is you build a strong LinkedIn profile, right? And you highlight your transferable skills. Oh, policy writing. You can do risk analysis. You can do threat analysis. You can do audits. You can all of this, right? You highlight them in your LinkedIn profile, right? And you share posts about GRC topics, right? Either on your LinkedIn, on your Twitter, or on your Medium as well, right? Share posts, write articles, right, about GRC topics, trending topics, right? And you can as well engage in, for example, now the CBN is coming up with some policies. You can write on it, right? Publish it, right? So, and as well, you can engage with GRC professionals and recruiters, right? You can engage them, you can message them on LinkedIn, you can message them, and you can connect with them as well, right? So you can network with GRC professionals, ask about their career path, and seek advice, right? So this is another way you network with professionals, seek their advice, you seek their mentorship and all that. So another way to go about it is be an active member of a cybersecurity community, right? For example, Forwarded is a cybersecurity community. You can be an active member, right? So Forwarded can have an offer for you and an opportunity for you, right? So join industry groups and events, right? So there are cybersecurity events that you can attend, right? So on LinkedIn and Discord groups as well, where you can learn from people, right? So and have active discussions and job leads, right? So have discussions with people that you know, oh, these people are in this community, these people are in this field before me, right? Have discussions with them, ask them questions, right? And yeah, and target the right. Another thing to break into the field is to target the right jobs. Target the right jobs. Like I said earlier, you cannot start your career with the GRC consultant, right? So target the right jobs and look for entry-level roles like risk analyst, compliance associates, audit assistants, privacy analysts, and just entry-level roles. You should not start with compliance consultancy, right? So, and that will be all for today. Thank you for joining. God bless you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Abdul Basit, for that beautiful presentation. So we usually have a tradition here. For those of you who would need the certificate, there is something you are going to do, just as we did in last webinar. If you are one of them, the people that attended, you know what we did. So in order to verify those who indeed were part of this webinar, and who deserve to get the certificate of participation, every one of you should drop your full names as you want it to be on the certificate. Drop it in the group. But before you drop it, hold on. Now, Abisayo, go ahead and share the form URL into the group, into the meeting. Yeah, share it right away. So what's going to happen now is you can pick the URL as it shares it, and every one of you start dropping your names as you want it to be on the certificate in the group. The essence of doing this is to be able to verify those who indeed were part of this webinar, because we can't give certificates to people who were not part of the webinar. So give us your full names. Abisayo, please drop the URL so that they can start filling so once you drop your name, this URL is dropping, copy it, you fill it also, fill the form yourself, right? Fill the form. When you fill the form, we are going to find your names and we are going to verify that you are indeed part of this webinar because you dropped your name here. So please drop the URL and let them copy it. So everyone copy the URL. Just drop it from time to time because names are popping up. The names are popping up here, okay? So just keep dropping the URL so that it doesn't get lost in the process. So drop
All
your
right,
names.
sir.
If you don't drop your names here, you're not going to get this certificate. And this certificate is going to be useful. Someone was asking this question. This is not, even if you have all the certifications in the world, if you're not qualified for a job, you're not going to get the job. You understand? So this is a certificate of participation, which is also a testament to the fact that you are doing some things, putting in effort to grow your skill, to advance yourself in the world of cybersecurity. So this is one in different certificates you can have in your CV. You can share on your LinkedIn profile. I just got this certificate from organization for being a part of the GRC, blah, 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 blah. You understand how you put it. You understand, which also makes people, potential recruiters, your network, and everybody see how serious you are about the cybersecurity thing. So keep dropping your names, keep dropping your names. I believe this chat is going to be recorded, right? I mean, this chat is recorded. We have a record of this chat, Abisaya, right?
Yes, sir, we do.
Yeah, no problem. So drop your names, drop the link for them. Yeah, so drop your names, keep dropping your names, how you want it to be on the certificate, and then we're going to prepare your certificate. You get everyone will have gotten their certificate latest by Wednesday. But please fill the form within the next 24 hours. It's better you fill it immediately, okay?
All right, thank you very much, sir. So we're just gonna allow a few more minutes to for everyone dropping their names for the form before we move to the Q&A session. So we're gonna be starting in a minute or two, just to ensure that everyone has dropped their names so we can proceed. All right, so it seems we don't have okay, people are still filling that. Okay, no problem. So let's just give it a minute. All right, so now we've given a minute for those, but no problem. You can still be dropping your names in the chat box. That's still allowed. But we're moving on to the Q&A part portion of this program now. So if you have questions, please drop in the chat box, and the speakers, of course, are willing and here to answer your question, whatever questions you may have. So please drop your questions in the chat box.
And just in case you don't get your certificates, despite dropping your name here, you can always reach out to any of us, right? Any of the admins about it, and we would help you solve the problem. If you were a part of this webinar, we'll figure that out. So drop your name, please. About questions, you can also raise your hands to or unmute your mic to ask questions if you are maybe if you are wondering if your question might be clog the chat box. Okay, you're done with the form. Yeah, go ahead. Please keep filling the forms. What are we filling in the form? The instructions are in the form. The questions are in the form, okay? Okay, so ask your questions before we end the meeting, okay?
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Hello.
you. Just take over, please.
Yes. Okay. My name is Yusuf. I'm attending from Lagos, one part in Okorodu, to be precise. I previously asked a question that during the course of this webinar, our brother Basi mentioned something about when you want to become a risk analyst, that one of the framework that you need is to use the risk assessment framework, which is talking about ISO 31000. And then when it was actually highlighting the entry level into this GRC and then the intermediate level, during intermediate, it mentioned ISO 27001. So I want to know the difference between the ISO 27001 and then that of ISO 31000 you mentioned. If the knowledge of one is the same as the other, because I still understand when going through the materials provided in the long run, the ISO 27001 and that of NIST is being mentioned, but none of it actually mentioned the ISO 31000 that I earlier mentioned during the part of the risk management, risk analyst pathway to GRC. Someone like me that is actually interested in becoming a risk analyst at entry level, do I need the knowledge of the two? And what is the difference between the two? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your question. Thank you so much. So the ISO 31000 and ISO 27001, right? So they are both standards from the same body, right? So the same body is the International Organization of Standardization. That's ISO, right? International Organization of Standardization is the governing body for the framework, right? So there's ISO 13000, 31000, there's ISO 27001, there's ISO 27000. They have a lot of frameworks, right? So, and for every framework has its own focus and aspects that it is dealing with, right? For example, the ISO 31000 is dealing with risk management, right? So it is a framework that talks about the strategic financial, operational aspects of risk, right? So it's going to provide organizations with like guidelines to help them handle a risk that befalls the organizations, right? But on the other hand, ISO 27001, right, that deals with IT security, information security, right? So it focuses on IT. It's a framework to protect sensitive data from cyber threats, breaches, and unauthorized accesses, right? So they are dealing with different stuffs. ISO 1000 is dealing with risk management, while ISO 27100 is dealing with IT, right? So they have another framework, ISO 27701, which deals with privacy information, right? How to manage privacy information, private data, how to manage it, what you can do with this, and how to how to utilize this data, right? So each of these framework, what they are set to do, they differ, right? So you said you're interested in being a risk analyst for start. So your concern is with the ISO 31000, right? So you do not have business with ISO 27000 one ISO 27701, right? Unless you have unless there is need for it. But your major concern is ISO 21000, right? So I think I've been able to answer your question.
Yes, correct. Thank you very much. I understand.
All right, so we have another question here from Mr. Oluyinka. He's asking, he said you are silent about NDPR when you are speaking about data protection. Is it not necessary? Which regulatory body is CCPA? So we're going to let one of the speakers take that question. So he just needs more clarification about the NDPR.
Oh, okay. So NDPR is the Nigerian Data Protection Regulations, right? So it is the regulation that deals with Nigeria, that governs data in Nigeria, right? How do we manage the data in Nigeria? What are the what can companies do to protect data? What companies have to implement to protect data, and the fine for non-compliance and all that, right? So that's that on NDPR. And for CCPR is the California Consumer Privacy Act, right? So this one is a US state level privacy law. It has to do with consumers in the US, right? So in California, basically, right? So businesses in the US, in California, how they disclose and how they disclose the data of their customers or clients, right? The fines that come with it and all that. So there are two different laws. NDPR is a Nigerian Protection Commission, protection regulation, while CCPA is California Consumer Privacy Act. So yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Abdul-Basir, for that wonderful answer. So we are running out of time, so we'll be taking just
Good evening. I have
one
a
more.
quick
Yeah, okay,
question.
no problem. Yeah, so this is the final question for today. So please go ahead.
I want to find out the practical training sessions you talked about towards the end of your GCR presentation. Are they targeted at persons who are tech savvy and maybe at intermediate level or something? Because to accounting in the university days, and they wanted to migrate their careers, and they were able to get opportunities to start learning some profession.
Hello, sorry, Miss Angie. It seems your mic cut off, but we're hearing you before then. So, all right. So it seems our connection went off. Okay, that's rather unfortunate. So we'll be taking, like I said, just one more question before we close the session for today. So please, if you have one last question, we'll take it. One of the speakers will answer the question before we call it a close for today.
Okay, sorry, sir, for the interruption.
Sorry, quick one. Sorry, before the question.
Okay, I just dropped a question in the chat bar.
Someone messaged me, as you mentioned earlier, compliance officer, data privacy officer, and GRC consultant. Can we call them decision makers? And if one of them is absent, can decisions be made? Thanks. I don't really understand the question, but yes, your decisions are dependent on your role. That's just the summary. So if you're a data privacy officer, you're probably working with organizations to make sure that they handle data privacy, handle data of their customers. responsibly. You might be working in-house as one or as a consultant who is just helping them to actually make sure that they are doing this responsibly, or you might even be representing the regulatory bodies. It's just not cast in stone. So I honestly don't really understand the question, but I hope I answered it at least to a degree. Okay, so go ahead, please. The person that was talking.
All right, so it seems that's there concerning all of the questions. So we hope we've been able to provide adequate responses to all of the questions that you may have. Once again, thank you very much. Don't forget that this particular webinar was hosted by Forward Edge Consulting Limited. We're an organization that provide a variety of services ranging from cybersecurity to basically a lot of programs within the space of technology. So thank you very much for joining today. Okay, since Miss Angie is back, so we take that final question before we call it a close. So Miss
I'm
Angie,
so sorry about the network outage. I just wanted to know if your practical session accommodate persons that let me say at the very basic let me say level of technology or IT knowledge. For instance, some of us who are from the social sciences, we may not even understand some codes you use, like the full meaning of GCR. So during your practical sessions, once one has registered, do you have any program that accommodates a level, that would break things down from the tiniest bits till we get to a higher stage, or you are only concerned about targeting participants that were science students all along? Because like I said, there was this Python programming profession that was taught to some of my colleagues that were formerly accountants but wanted to migrate because of work. And the persons that coordinated that Python programming course for them had the practical. So I don't know if your own program from Forward Edge Consulting accommodates the needs of those of us who have not been from the sciences from the beginning, but are interested in changing our career path. Thank you.
Host, that's a question for you to answer.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Ms. Angie, for that wonderful question. And yeah, I'm here to tell you categorically that our courses, but all our courses, they apply to not just individuals that have a prior knowledge of technology or whatever. So even if you have no prior experience or knowledge of technology, you will still encouraged to join in on these programs, as we will be catering for not just the individuals that have prior experience in technology or experience with science subjects. So it doesn't matter what particular background you're coming with. We have a space for you here, and we cater to every audience here. So I hope I've been able to answer the question, man. So it seems she dropped off the meeting once again. So yeah, thank you very much. So that's been our time for today. So thank you very much, each and everyone, for joining, and we hope to see you all at a later date. Thank you very much, everyone.
Sorry, I have a question.
Okay, just real quick, you could go ahead.
Sorry, network has been on and off, but not to. How do I have? Because the site actually is restricted to only admins. How do we reach out to you people? One, two. The last class that we were asked to drop our names for certificate, I didn't get. Neither did it drop in my mail. So please.
Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to drop the official Forward Edge line. which you can reach out to in terms for information and more information about the program, or if you'd like to sign up. And also, you could also lay your complaint because I remember you from the last program, so you could also lay your complaint about not getting the certificate. And don't worry, we're going to have that fixed up for you. So I'm
Okay, so
dropping
let
the
me chip in something there. So there's a likelihood that you didn't get that because you didn't necessarily go through the instructions, because most likely everyone did, except maybe there was an omission. So maybe you didn't fill the form as you were supposed to, or you didn't fill the second form. Most times we find that that's what ends up happening. Like the people that didn't get the certificate didn't necessarily follow the instructions, but communicate to any of us. He's going to drop the forward deadline just as he said. But anybody within the community who is an admin, you can as well chat us. Do you understand what I'm saying? For whatever it is that you require or you are asking for. Yeah, we get a lot of very irrelevant chats at times, but I know you are talking about something serious here. So reach out to us whenever you need something, or reach out to the official line that is dropping to you here right now. Okay? In fact, we need to make the forward edge admin also an admin within the community so that they can also reach out anytime.
so
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so the number has been dropped in the chat box, so you can reach out for more information. So thank you very much, everyone, and we hope to see you at a later date.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, guys. Bye.